You say you agree with U.S. intelligence that Russia meddled in the election in 2016.
Yeah, and I've said that before, but I let him know we can't have this. We're not going to have it. And that's the way it's going to be.
A Hawaii county officer shot dead, and the manhunt for his killer intensifying overnight. Just this week alone, 6 officers were shot.
House Republicans overwhelmingly passed a measure supporting ICE agents, but some Democrats are calling it a stunt.
What's incredible is these politicians, members of the legislature, would much rather abolish a law enforcement agency than fix the law.
Sports icons and America's best athletes come together for the annual ESPYs Award.
Our friend Jake Wood, a Marine who co-founded Team Rubicon, receiving the Pat Tillman Award for service. The nonprofit deploys veterans to help with natural disaster relief.
Yeah, and Jon Stewart had to get the crowd to respond to his Marine service 2 or 3 times. He's like, no, only one person applauds for a Marine at the ESPYs, so that was a little tough.
Hey,
I don't
welcome
know if the audio was working.
Yeah, is ours working?
You're on.
Okay.
You're on a hot mic.
Action. Thanks very much for joining us on this 19th day of July. It is a beautiful day.
It is.
To start here in New
We're going to
York
have great weather here on this Thursday.
And we start this hour with the Fox News alert. Listen to this, folks. A manhunt is intensifying this morning for an accused cop killer on the run somewhere in Hawaii.
No, this is not a repeat. Another cop shot. It marks the 6th officer shot in the U.S. this week.
And Todd Pyre joins us live with more on the latest attack on our men and women in blue. Todd?
Steve, Ainsley, and Brian, even paradise isn't spared from the assault on those who keep us safe, with a Hawaii County officer shot dead and the manhunt for his killer intensifying overnight.
This was an officer. This was a father, a son, a husband. Put a face to the name.
Authorities say officers were conducting a traffic stop Tuesday night when the driver, 33-year-old Justin Waiki, got out and fired multiple shots. Officer Bronson Kaliloa, struck in the neck and leg, later died at the hospital. The 10-year police veteran was honored as the Officer of the Month in April 2014. He leaves behind a wife and 3 small children. The FBI has offered a $10,000 reward for information leading to the arrest of the convicted felon accused in the killing. Meantime, in Massachusetts, the handcuffs that used to hang off the belt of Weymouth police officer Michael Chesna were used to restrain the man accused of killing that officer with his own gun. This photo showing a state police trooper putting the cuffs on Emmanuel Lopes on his way to his arraignment. Lopes allegedly shot Chesna 10 times before killing a 77-year-old woman. Just this week alone, 6 officers were shot, 3 injured in Missouri, 1 injured in North Carolina, in addition to the killings in Hawaii and Massachusetts. These latest deaths bringing the number of officers killed by gunfire in 2018 alone to 33. That's according to the Officer Down Memorial page. Guys, when is it going to stop?
That's a good question. All right, Todd, thank you very much.
Thank you, Todd.
Meanwhile, let's talk a little bit about how many times in the last couple of weeks have you heard people, largely from the political left, targeting the men and women of ICE, saying, we heard somebody here in New York State say ICE is a terrorist outfit. How many times have we heard them say we've got to abolish ICE? Well, yesterday, the House of Representatives actually gave the Democrats the opportunity to officially go on the record and say, I want to abolish ICE. But you know what? The Democrats declined, and simply a majority of them said, yep, I'm here, but I'm not taking a stand.
Democrats were withholding their votes, not voting no on it, voting present. There were 18 that voted for, 34 against, and 133 voted present.
Right, and this was a resolution supporting ICE. It's different than the bill we told you about. 3 Democrat members said, we're going to come up with a bill to abolish ICE. Those members eventually said, you know what, if that bill comes up, we're not even going to vote for it. So yesterday it was a chance to say we support ICE, and yet rather than say we support the men and women of ICE, so many Democrats, 133 of them, just said, yep, I'm here. I'm not taking a stand.
Mark Bocan, who sponsored the whole thing, said, I only had 9 sponsors. Republicans are really not giving me enough time. I doubt it. The polls obviously show the American people, regardless of your political stripes, overwhelmingly do not want to ban ICE. The president tweeted this out. The 2 biggest opponents of ICE in America today are the Democrats Party and MS-13. Tom Homan spent a lot of the day on television. It was great to have him here. And he said, as former acting director of ICE, it was good to see someone step up. But by the way, the ramifications, if you did abolish it, you wouldn't like it.
If you look at the other side of the House, Homeland Security investigations, if they would abolish ICE this year, there would be over 900 children that weren't rescued from sexual predators. There would be 2,200 more sexual predators walking the streets of this country. There would be over 100,000 criminal aliens. These are people who are in the United States illegally and committed a criminal act after they were here illegally against a citizen of this country. There'd be 100,000 more of those walking the streets of America this year. So abolish ICE is just a ridiculous concept.
He also goes on to say it's ridiculous to abolish ICE. If you don't like the laws, change the laws. The men and women with ICE are just doing what the laws say. Right. And if you don't like it, change the laws. Just to also remind you that Republicans, they overwhelmingly won this. It was it passed by 244 to 35.
All right, so something else is coming out on the immigration front. Then we'll switch over to Russia. The House is moving forward with a proposal to avoid a shutdown in September that would include $5 billion for border security, most of which would be some type of barrier. As you know, some of this area is cliffs. You don't need a wall. Some areas you need a see-through fence. You don't need a solid wall. Other times you need stuff fixed. Regardless, $5 billion, I think the president would be happy with, and he kind of tweeted out a thank you to Kevin Yoder for doing that. He's the Republican who sponsored it. It'll go through the House. But the problem is in the Senate, they don't seem to, even the Republicans don't seem to be on board with it. Evidently, they're funding in a bipartisan way. And any type of funding of the wall, Democrats sadly look at that as for a political victory for the president rather than it was good for the country.
Congressman Yoder, he's from your neck of the woods, Kansas City area, and he's up for re-election. The president's actually going to go to the convention next Tuesday to endorse him.
He's going to be joining us live at 8:15 this morning. Meanwhile, let's talk a little more about what the president was up to yesterday. You know, yesterday the president once again reaffirmed his commitment to combat Russian meddling. You know, the Russians have been meddling in our elections for many, many years. He sat down with Jeff Glor of CBS for the second time in a week. And essentially, he said he personally holds Vladimir Putin responsible for Russian interference. And he also said, I told him he's got to stop it. Watch.
You say you agree with U.S. intelligence that Russia meddled in the election in 2016.
Yeah, and I've said that before, Jeff. I have said that numerous times before. And I would say that that is true, yeah.
But you haven't condemned Putin specifically. Do you hold him personally responsible?
Well, I would, because he's in charge of the country, just like I consider myself to be responsible for things that happen in this country. So certainly, as the leader of a country, you would have to hold him responsible, yes.
What'd you say to him?
Very strong on the fact that we can't have meddling, we can't have any of that. Now, look, we're also living in a grown-up world. Will a strong statement, President Obama supposedly made a strong statement. Nobody heard it. But I let him know we can't have this. We're not going to have it. And that's the way it's going to be.
President, once and for all, wants to put an end to the thought that he does not believe that Vladimir Putin and Russia meddled in the election. There's also a big story that came out about probably 9 o'clock last night. David Sanger wrote it with the New York Times out in today's edition that says the president was told directly right before the inauguration, I imagine by John Brennan, I imagine by James Comey, or I imagine by James Clapper, 3 people who have shown to be vehemently anti-Trump, that Vladimir Putin personally made sure they meddled in the election, and he was personally responsible for it. Right. And the term is the president reluctantly agreed, grudgingly convinced that Putin ordered the interference.
Well, the president has called out numerous times Vladimir Putin for meddling in the election, and Russia. Listen to this.
As far as hacking, I think it was Russia, but I think we also get hacked by other countries and other people. And I can say that, when we lost 22 million names and everything else that was hacked recently, they didn't make a big deal out of that. That was something that was extraordinary. That was probably China. We had we have much hacking going on. Well, I think it was Russia, and I think it could have been other people in other countries. Could have been a lot of people interfered. I think it was Russia, but I think it was probably other people and/or countries. It was Russia, and I think it was probably others also. Well, the Russians had no impact on our votes whatsoever, but certainly there was meddling, and probably there was meddling from other countries and maybe other individuals.
So, as you can see right there, he has said a number of times that he thought it was Russia and he thought they were meddling. Brian, some of the people who were in the room the day that President-elect Donald Trump was briefed on that Putin personally ordered it. John Brennan, James Clapper, Mike Rogers, and James Comey, they all briefed the president during the transition period. One of the people in the room was John Brennan, who in that same interview yesterday, the president referred to him as a lowlife. He says he's got complete confidence in the new intelligence community, particularly Dan Coats, who currently is saying that their warning lights are flashing red. They're trying to do it again. But nonetheless, he does not have so much confidence in the previous intelligence community, which, as you're about to see in the next hour, he feels like was out to get it.
So sitting down with Jeff Glor, calling out Vladimir Putin, also calling out Erdogan, the president of Turkey, because he's locked up this pastor there that's been a pastor there for more than 20 years. And the president was tweeting about it last night saying, send him home because he's just a good Christian man.
But how bad is this? The Russian ambassador to the United States, Anatoly Antonov, said that he says, I want to compliment the president, but he's afraid it'll make things worse for it. They had a productive meeting. Vladimir Putin will tell us what happened, evidently in Russian today. We'll mention the meeting, but what the president has to do is come out and tell us what went on in that meeting and what was agreed to, even in principle or a working group going forward. Right. I think that is the most important thing, more than the press conference, to find out where we're at into our relationship. Right. He says, when I return from Moscow, I'll have a very clear-cut, lucid determination to go knock on every door at the State Department and Security Council to understand what we can do together to realize the agreements, the ideas that the two presidents supported. So he has a positive feeling about it, but he's afraid to express it because of the sentiment in America right now.
So we're waiting to hear from the president, but the Russians are already saying we got a handshake deal on arms control in Syria and some other stuff. So stay tuned, folks. All right. Meanwhile, it's 6:12 here in New York City.
And Jillian has some headlines for us. Hey, Jillian.
That's right. Good morning. And we start with the Fox News alert. So let's get you caught up. At least 22 soldiers hurt when a large tent collapses at a military base in California. Army officials say wind caused by a Black Hawk helicopter blew it down at Fort Hunter Liggett. It happened during an annual training exercise for thousands of troops. Most of the injuries were minor. President Trump and the First Lady paying tribute to a fallen Secret Service agent. Noel Remagan had a stroke and died protecting President Trump at his golf club in Scotland. The 42-year-old spent 5 years in the Marine Corps before dedicating 19 years to the Secret Service. His body returning to the U.S. draped in an American flag. In a statement, President Trump writing, quote, "Our prayers are with Special Agent Remagan's loved ones. We grieve with them." A GoFundMe page has been set up for his family. He leaves behind a wife and 2 young kids. A Russian spy posing as a graduate student in the U.S. is denied bail. Maria Butina is accused of working under a top Russian official to try and infiltrate the GOP. She pleaded not guilty to charges of conspiracy and not registering as a foreign agent during her first court appearance. Prosecutors are worried she could flee back to Russia. Let's look at your headlines. I'll send it back to you.
Lots going on. Thank you very much.
All right, 13 minutes after the hour, Democrats trying to sharpen their 2020 vision. A new poll says a majority of them want a new face for 2020. Our next guest is a Democrat and says that's not the only thing.
As some Democrats speculate who will run against President Trump for 2020, a new poll revealing 73% of Democrat voters want a fresh face for the party's nominee in 2020. Our next guest, a Democrat, says it's not just about fresh faces, but fresh ideas. Teslyn Figueroa is the former National Justice Director for Bernie Sanders' presidential campaign. She joins us right now from Houston to explain. Good morning to you, Teslyn.
Good morning.
Okay, so 73% of Democrats say, yes, we'd like somebody new. What does that say to you?
Well, what it says to me is I think it was obvious in 2016, by Hillary Clinton being very certainly well known. And although she did have a lot of popular votes, I think it was more about the ideals that Senator Sanders brought to the table. Even if people really haven't figured out quite yet how he's going to make those things happen,
sure.
I think it was more about new ideology. Me personally, I worked for Senator Sanders because I just wanted to see someone shake up the system.
Oh, he
not
did.
necessarily agreeing with, he absolutely did, agreeing with everything that he said.
Right.
But I think it was very critical to 2016.
In the last couple of weeks, ever since she beat an incumbent here in New York, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has been described as the face of the party, the new face of the party. Everybody wants her on their shows. There she is right there. She is a socialist, much like Bernie Sanders, who you worked for. But Joe Lieberman came out and he said, if she is the party model, the Democrats won't have a very bright future. She is way too far to the left for Democrats. What do you make of that comment?
Well, I think, it just shows that once again, the Democrat Party is struggling with inner fighting,
right.
A civil war among progressives versus moderate Democrats. And even on the progressive side, there's the Sanders wing. There's also the Senator Warren wing. So it just shows that there's just a split. Anytime someone goes against an incumbent to vote for someone who doesn't have any political experience, it shows that there's obviously, a concern on the ground that there's still a disconnect,
sure.
much like in 2016.
Well, you're describing where, progressives within the Democratic Party, you got people to the far left, the moderates, and less so. They're all trying to figure out what the next message is and who the next person is. So right now, it just seems like it's muddled, right?
Yeah, a lot of people have signed up, with Bernie Sanders supporting ideas that they never said that they would, like for Medicare for all.
Okay.
But I don't know how those things will continue on to 2020. It seems that right now there's just been a lot of, bandwagon riding to see, whose coattail
Sure.
will get them the furthest. We'll actually see who's able to get something done and actually get the nomination in 2020.
Well, they've got a little bit of branding. The brand new slogan for the Democrats is "For the People." Do you think that's going to get people out to pull the lever for them?
Yeah, I guess it's going to be who people, what people are they talking about? There's still individuals, even like the African-American community, that still feels that there's a missing spot, where we haven't been talked about, our issues haven't been talked about, besides just fun hashtags. But at the end of the day, there hasn't really been a lot of solutions presented. So For the People won't work unless they really start to distinguish who those people are and what those people stand for.
Okay, great analysis. Teslin, thank you very much for joining us live. All right. What do you think about that, folks? Email us, friends@foxnews.com. 6:20 here in New York City now. A legal immigrants cafe gets targeted by the left just because he supports the president. That immigrant here to respond to the backlash coming up next.
Out of here! Shame! Shame!
I was born during
Here's some quick headlines for you. President Trump slamming Turkey's refusal to release American pastor Andrew Brunson. Our commander-in-chief calling the decision a total disgrace on Twitter, urging President Erdogan to free him, saying, quote, he's done nothing wrong and his family needs him. He's facing a 35-year sentence for allegedly aiding terror groups and espionage. Brunson and his wife were in Christian churches in Turkey for 23 years. The remains of U.S. soldiers killed in the Korean War could soon be returned to their families. According to reports, the repatriation of as many as 55 Americans is likely to happen as soon as next week. North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un making that promise when he met with our president. Brian, down to you.
All right. Radical leftists in Southern California are targeting a kosher cafe just because the owner supports the president and some postings that went along with it.
Gentry, get the out! Gentry, get the out! Out of here! Shame! Shame! Shame!
All right, the local Chamber of Commerce revoked the cafe's membership for the owner's views on immigration, but little do they know, the owner is a legal immigrant himself, though. Here with their story, owner of the Asher Cafe and Lounge, Asher Shalom and David Shalom. First off, guys, do you believe these protests are because you're a Trump supporter or because of your postings?
I think it's a combination of many things together. It's because of we're supporting Trump, because it's kosher, because it's a successful business. They don't want anything nice and successful in this area in Boyle Heights. They prefer to stay like 100 years ago. They are against anything new that come to this area.
David,
we are confused.
So, David, what did you post that seems to have caused so much of an uproar?
Sure. Well, my father actually, he reposted a couple of pro-Trump things, and we're just astonished that simply voicing support for our president is inciting to people. And so, we have a message of peace. We come with peace. Our last name is Shalom, actually, which means peace. And, we want to make good with the community. We're on very good terms with the Boyle Heights community before this. And it's a shame that just expressing pro-Trump sentiment has really caused all of this divide.
Asher, you came here 30 years ago. You became a citizen 15 years ago, and you believe you're okay with legal immigration. Your contention is with illegal immigration, and you support the president's policies, right?
Of course, I have over 70 people working for me. Most of them are immigrant, and I love to work with them. They are with me, some of them over 25 years. And my relationship with them is amazing. I just, one of the reasons I pro-Trump and I love him, because I'm in textile business over about 30 years, and I saw how we lost a lot of businesses to China. A lot of factories in North Carolina, South Carolina, they closed, and in California. And I'm proud to manufacture everything under Made in USA. Everything that we are shipping is with a big label, Made in USA. And a lot of our customers love this idea, even though it's cost them more money, but they prefer to buy from me because the quality that we are making, they cannot do it. And even that the price is a little bit more expensive.
And David, you have some anti-Semitic slurs, pro-Palestinian remarks, all thrown at you. Here's what the Boyle Heights Chamber of Commerce said. The Boyle Heights Chamber of Commerce learned of public statements that Asher Shalom posted on social media regarding immigrants. These statements are not in line with the Chamber's values and objectives. In accordance with our bylaws, Asher Cafe and the Lounge's membership revoked. Membership dues were refunded. Participation in their grand opening was canceled. So all that happened. What was the posting? You posted about what the president said reportedly behind closed doors in the Oval Office about blank hole countries?
Exactly. It was really nothing, and I was surprised that they didn't, because they called me Tuesday to have 40 people to come to our coffee shop to have a breakfast, and suddenly in one day they sent a letter without calling me, without talking to me, to asking me what is my idea. And that's it.
David, real
court
quick.
And judgment all together.
David, you think you're going to close up? Or you guys going to keep fighting?
No, we are getting every second negative review by Yelp and Google, but we have a lot of supporters, and we will continue.
Okay, thanks, David Asher. Thanks so much.
Sure.
Sure, thank you.
All right. Meanwhile, he's been slamming President Trump, now former President Obama, taking aim at all men.
Men have been getting on my nerves lately. Every day I read the newspaper and I just think, like, brothers, what's wrong with you guys?
He was just getting warmed up. We'll tell you how he finished. Plus, this Army Staff Sergeant made the ultimate sacrifice in Afghanistan. Now 2 companies are teaming up to help his wife and his son. That Gold Star family here live next. And there they are. But first, happy birthday to actor Benedict Cumberbatch. He's 42 years old today, and he's quite good.
Air Force One is going to be incredible. It's going to be the top of the line, the top in the world, and it's going to be red, white, and blue, which I think is appropriate.
Talk about taking America first to new heights. President Trump yesterday confirming Air Force One, that particular paint scheme, is getting a patriotic makeover.
The red, white, and blue update is going to replace the current light blue and white design that was selected by John F. Kennedy and First Lady Jackie Kennedy.
And we want to know what you think about that and the new Air Force One's color scheme. Send your mock-ups and we'll reveal them a little bit later on the show. Get out your colored pencils.
Of course, you know, it's going to be challenging because there are already a lot of red, white, and blue airplanes, big ones out there. I think Delta has red, white, and blue. American Airlines, a lot of red, white, and blue. So how can you make it stand out apart from everything
The
else?
president made a comment saying he wants the whole underbelly to be all red, so that would be different than some other planes.
So let us know. Meanwhile, on this Thursday morning, let's talk about this. When Staff Sergeant Dennis Hansen was killed by an IED while deployed in Afghanistan, his wife Jenny had no idea what to do, so she turned to TAPS. TAPS is an organization that helps military families impacted by the death of their loved ones.
It was the program that helped her and her young son, Michael, who was only a few months old at the time when his dad was killed, continue on with their lives. And it's this program that has inspired companies like Grunt Style and Orange County Choppers to raise money to help families of the fallen.
All right, here to explain is the CEO of Grunt Style, Daniel Alaric, as well as Jenny and Michael Hansen. Welcome to all you guys.
Welcome.
Hey, thanks for having us out here.
Good to have you. Thank you. Okay, so Dan, tell us about your organization and how you all met.
A member of TAPS came down to our organization about a year ago, and they said, hey, can you participate in a weekend working with the kids? I'm like, I'd love to, but, I'm really busy. And then my assistant basically said, hey, get your butt out the office and go work with them. And I got to tell you, I absolutely fell in love with the organization. It was so neat to see the connection that you would have. Especially, a lot of us have military service, and you're working with kids that you're like, oh my gosh, I have friends that served with your dad, or I could have served with that. You could have been my kid or a friend of mine. And it was just a great connection and a great organization.
And Jenny, how did you find TAPS?
After my husband was killed and we kind of settled down from the hustle and bustle, we needed a place to go.
Yeah.
And TAPS actually contacted us, reached out to me and sent us some information on their organization and said, why don't you come down and meet other families?
How did it help you?
It was great because we didn't feel isolated anymore. Unfortunately, when things like this happen and a tragedy like this happens in a military side, you kind of transfer over to the other side, and there's not a lot out there where we find connections.
And can you tell me about your husband?
Yeah, my husband Dennis, he's from Ohio, a true Ohio State fan, and he was a staff sergeant in the Army and previously served in the Marine Corps for 8.5 years. He was killed about 7 days before he was supposed to come home on his second deployment to Afghanistan. 9 deployments in total around the world, and he was a pretty awesome guy.
An American patriot. We're sorry for your loss.
Michael, you're holding down the fort now, right? You're the man at home. When you look at the flag, the red, white, and blue, what does it mean to you?
It means a lot to me that people have put their lives and given up their lives just for other people could have a great time here.
Okay.
Great answer.
I tell you what, let's
That's
walk
your
out
dad
here.
right there on your heart.
Let's walk around behind this beautiful motorcycle right here. And Daniel, come on around here so everybody can see it. Daniel, tell us about this particular motorcycle that was custom built by Orange County Choppers.
Yeah, so they offered if they could build a bike for us. I said, sure, but I'd love to work with TAPS and auction it off and see if we can raise a lot of money for the organization. So they built this bike. It's incredible. We did this big reveal, and it's being auctioned right now. It's live on our website at gruntstyle.com, and all the money that goes to this bike goes straight to TAPS organization.
Wow, that's fantastic.
So anyone at home can go to your website?
Anyone go to gruntstyle.com and they can check it out. It's right there, and bid on it, and all that money goes to TAPS.
Michael, what do you think about that motorcycle?
I think it's actually very good. Actually, I think it's. I actually didn't know that it was gonna be green. I thought it was gonna be like a different color, possibly like.
You never know.
Like the TAPS colors.
I like the army green though, or army green for your dad.
Yeah, I think so.
All right. All right. If people would like more information, go to your website, gruntstyle.com.
Gruntstyle.com, they get all the information there.
I love that you have your husband on your pin there.
Oh, thank you. This is a photograph actually of Michael and him. This is a close-up. This is the day before Dennis redeployed back to Afghanistan when Michael was only 3 months old. So.
Jenny, Michael, thank you so much.
Thank you.
God bless your family.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and Dan, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right. It is a brisk morning here in New York City, and let's go back inside with Jillian, who's got some news.
That's right. Good morning and a wonderful segment. Former President Barack Obama slamming his own gender during a speech in South Africa.
Men have been getting on my nerves lately. Every day I read the newspaper and I just think, like, brothers, what's wrong with you guys? I mean, What's wrong with us? All right, I mean, we're violent, we're bullying. I think empowering more women on the continent, that ought to, right away is going to, I think, lead to some better policies.
The former president making similar remarks at another event, saying history shows that men have always desired greed and dominance. A trapeze stunt on America's Got Talent goes horribly wrong. Watch this.
She okay?
Wow, that woman slipping right through her husband's grip and crashing to the floor. Thankfully, though, she did fall onto a safety mat and wasn't seriously hurt. Despite the mishap, the couple's performance was good enough to move them on to the next round. Two kids bitten by sharks just miles apart. A 12-year-old girl was in waist-deep water off the New York coast when she felt a burst of pain.
I kind of thought it was a dream. I didn't really think it was actually happening. It was like 3 to 4 feet, so it was pretty big.
The other victim, a 13-year-old boy, had a shark tooth lodged in his leg after the bite that had to be pulled out. Both are expected to be okay. Sports icons and America's best athletes coming together for the annual ESPY Awards. Former professional race car driver Danica Patrick hosting the event in Los Angeles and taking some political jabs.
It's time to talk about the national anthem controversy. I haven't seen a Russian this pleased with Washington since, well, 2 days ago.
But the night really had a lot of touching moments. 3 coaches killed in the Parkland school shooting, honored for saving lives with the Best Coach Award. Buffalo Bills legend Jim Kelly, who's fighting cancer, giving an emotional speech while accepting the Jimmy V Award for perseverance.
I just urge anybody out there, if you have somebody out there suffering, it doesn't have to be cancer. What you say to them and the smile that you have on your face, that can be the difference in them making it the next day. Remember that. Always, always persevere. Like Jimmy V said, never, ever give up.
Great words. Our friend Jake Wood, a Marine who co-founded Team Rubicon, receiving the Pat Tillman Award for service. The nonprofit deploys veterans to help with natural disaster relief. And you may remember Janice Dean working with Team Rubicon after Hurricane Harvey. And Janice is here now, and I know you've done a number of things with Team Rubicon, Janice.
Oh, I consider them my family, both Jake and Indra, and they're welcoming a new baby in the next couple of months. So congratulations, Jake. You are a true patriot. I mean, working with Team Rubicon and helping in disaster areas. This was after Hurricane Harvey. I had a wonderful time with them last year, and I plan to do the same this year. They're part of our family here in Fox and Friends. So congratulations, Jake. You looked amazing. You did great, my buddy. All right, let's take a look at your forecast highs because it is hot out in Texas with our friends in Houston, 98 today. But look at Dallas, 108, 106 in Abilene, and that's going to be ongoing throughout the next couple of days, Thursday, Friday, and even into Saturday. We have heat advisories, dangerous heat in place for all of these areas, not just Texas, but Louisiana, parts of Oklahoma. So millions of folks under heat advisories. This is dangerous heat, so people need to heed the warnings. Just looking at the past 24 hours, we do have the threat for severe storms across the Midwest today, so know what to do if there's a watch or a warning in your area. All right, Steve, outside to you, my friend.
All right, JD, thank you very much. Meanwhile, remember when Seattle tried to tax companies to solve the homeless crisis there? Well, now San Francisco wants to do the same thing. Don't they remember how well it worked the last time? Maybe not.
And they might be identical twins, but these sisters are polar opposites when it comes to their politics, and now they're running against each other for their office. They're both going to join us live.
And they want us to autograph the motorcycle, so we will.
Okay,
Ainsley,
here we
you
go.
first. Brian?
Well, Seattle residents tried it and it failed there, and now San Francisco is about to vote on a new tax on big businesses to help the homeless, doubling how much the city spends on homeless services from $300 million to $600 million a year. Here to weigh in on this is Bay Area-based contributor for The Federalist, Ariel Davidson. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're
I'm
welcome.
excited to speak with you.
Well, tell us what is going on in your area when it comes to homelessness.
Right, so homelessness is one of the top issues that affects Bay Area voters, and in particular San Francisco. We have around 7,500 homeless people in the city, 49 square foot mile city, so you're looking at, a little over 150 homeless people per square mile. And this issue has been intractable in terms of how to address it. It seems like time and time again, mayors have struggled about how to address it, and it only seems to be getting worse. And, I'm hesitant to say that we should be immediately going to the taxpayers to foot the bill, but I think it's one of those issues that is going to continue to be a headache for mayors and the residents of San Francisco.
What about the big businesses? How are they feeling about this? Because that could force them to move out of San Francisco if this passes. Every single person that works for these big businesses, they are taxed. It's called a head tax, and all that money goes to the homeless issue.
Yes, and so in particular in San Francisco, what they would like to do is they would be hoping to tax all businesses that have gross receipts at $50 million or over. The problem is that they're advertising this as a tax on big businesses, but the reality is that there are plenty of businesses who have $50 million in revenue who have incredibly low profit margins. Think of large retailers, grocery stores. What's going to happen is it's going to end up falling on the consumer to pay this tax.
That's right.
And that's usually what happens with taxes in general, right? Is that it's being sold as a tax on big businesses when in reality it's going to be felt most heavily by the consumer.
Yeah, it's redistribution of wealth too. If you own a business and the government is taxing you X amount of dollars, you're going to just pass that back to the customer because you can't afford it, right?
Right, you're going to see a relatively small hike perhaps on the price of goods that you purchase. That's definitely a possibility. Or you might see businesses cut back on labor costs. If they're looking to maintain their current profit margin, if it's pretty low, you might see them try to cut back on certain labor costs, which could include, firing or laying off workers or reducing them to part-time.
Mm-hmm. These are big businesses. They make a lot of money, but maybe some of the homeless in that area could go work for these big companies. Thank you so much for being on with us.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. MSNBC tried to get Trump supporters to bash the president over his comments in Helsinki. So how did it go?
He's trying to make this country great again.
Do you continue to support him despite this week? Yes.
I'm not one bit worried about the rest of the world. They ain't worried about us.
And there's more where that came from. We'll play it for you. And they might be identical twins, but these sisters are polar opposites when it comes to their politics, and now they are running against each other for office. They're both going to join us live coming up next.
Okay, twin sisters Monica Sparks and Jessica Ann Tyson may be identical in their appearances, but not in their politics. They're both running for Michigan County Commissioner seats in different districts. Monica, a Democrat, and Jessica Ann as a Republican.
So how did the sisters make sure political debates wouldn't spiral into a family feud? Joining us now is Democratic candidate for the 12th district seat in Kent County, Monica Sparks. Monica's the Democrat on the left, and Republican candidate for the 13th district seat is Jessica Ann Tyson on the right. Ladies, thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Welcome.
Good
So how did
morning.
one become a Democrat and one become a Republican?
I don't know when that happened. I think we had to figure that out because you have to declare a party.
Right.
And at the end of the day, I think we just voted our values, what we felt more aligned with inside of our core being.
For me, the Democratic Party stands for equality, justice, civil rights, and liberty for all. So that is the party that I align with my values.
We're kind of curious, growing up, a lot of families do have divisions in them with the Democrats and Republicans. But when you were growing up, your mom never wanted you to argue about politics, right?
Oh no. Even now?
Oh, no.
Not possible.
She wouldn't let us argue about politics. She wouldn't let us argue about anything.
Boyfriends, anything.
Nothing. And she always just Yeah, she always just impressed upon us that our life is about giving to others. And because our life is about giving to others, you don't have to argue because everyone's experience will lead them to their own path.
It's a beautiful message. Jessica Ann, we heard from your sister how she became a Democrat. How did you become a Republican? What do you like about the party?
You know, there's so much what's not to love about this party. Part of freedom, a party of progress, and I know my history. This party was started for people who look like me and women. So why wouldn't I want to be started of something that's progressive, something that's growing, something that's been solid and foundation
You're not
for
allowed to use that
families.
progressive word.
That's for families, for business, for productivity.
Right. So for the folks watching right now who, you know, they're reluctant to talk about politics, how do you do it at your house so it's civil and at the end of the day you walk away, you still love each other?
Well, I think at the end of the day, we both know that we're trying to have progress, move things forward, and we can't do it when we're fighting against each other. So we know that the left wing and the right wing belong to the same bird.
You know,
Awesome.
another thing that we understand is when we were little, growing up, you know, we ate out of trash cans and we had a very, very tumultuous growing up. But we understand that you have to have empathy for people. And because our upbringing was that of a difference, we understand.
Well, I know a little
We
bit
do.
about your upbringing.
Our love
and
for
God bless you both. Mom was a heroin addict, raised in a foster family, abused, and then found a loving home. And
Yes.
those were the parents that raised you. God bless you both. We wish you all the best.
Good luck to both of you ladies.
Thank you,
Thank
Steve.
you,
Thanks,
America. We
Ainsley.
appreciate
Bye-bye.
your Fox and Friends.
All right.
They're so
They're
cute,
great.
aren't they?
We'll be right back. Talk about President Trump.